Three, two, one. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. I'm Ash, and this is Storytime Live. What is this, like episode 57 or something? I can't keep track of my own episodes. That's not what straws do. When you're a straw, you just don't even know what you're doing. That's an Eric Breen joke. He's probably the only one that'll get that. I hope everyone's having a good night, good day, having a blessed week. I know it's can be some trying times. 2020. I don't know who's having a good year. I don't know who's gonna look back and just be like, "Man, 2020, well, that's a great year." I think it's like all camps, no matter what camp you're in, whether you're a sports fan, comic fan, politician, you're big into education, school, movies, whatever you like, whatever you're into. You're gonna just be like, 2020 sucked. It just sucked for everybody. But I guess misery loves company. So if we're all in it together, I guess that's better than just only one group of people. Oh, there's a plane. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Got a lot of planes out here, helicopters too. Let's see. Zach Richmond is first in the house today. Wow, Zach, congratulations for being number one. No participation trophy for Zach. He is the winner. And Dragon Majesty is the first recipient of the participation trophy. Good job, Zach. Marania's in the house. Great to see you, Marania. Now here's the trick. Do I say, Marania, you get a participation trophy, or do I elevate Marania because she's a woman? So Marania's the first woman. I don't know what to do there, so I'm not going to do anything. But good to see him, Marania. Tehillim is here. Good to see you, Tehillim. And any other new names that I'm not... Oh, there's Eric Breen. Eric Breen. You never know if he's going to show up. He's the man without a plan. And Gigamock. Gigamock's a familiar face to me. He says, "Hey, man, we sent 2 guys into space privately and brought them back safe. Bright side." Oh, he's talking about 2020. Yeah, man, that is a crazy thing in our life. We don't have a government space program anymore. We have private space, and those guys over at SpaceX are doing some crazy stuff. It's crazy to think there was been 12 years, I think, since we sent someone into space, and now we didn't just bring it back, but we did it for the first time ever privately. No country has ever done a private launch into space. For humans. I mean, we've had commercial private satellite launches and stuff for a little while, but some of the stuff they're doing over at SpaceX is really, really darn impressive. I don't know. When I was a little kid, I used to be a total little space geek. I think I was probably I think like 50% of kids have some dream at some point that they think they're going to be an astronaut. And I think I was in that 50 percentile. Well, I mean, I know I was, but just like most kids, once you realize that it's not just, hey, you get to step in a spacesuit and go to space, like it's really, really hard work, really hard. I think being an astronaut might be one of the hardest accomplishments in the world. Like, I mean, more people climb Mount Everest than get to go into space, right? More people get to be in any pro sport hall of fame than go into space. Think about this. More people get to be rock stars. I mean, think of anything that's like a hard accomplishment. Maybe being president of the United States might be harder. I don't know. Let's see. Ronnie says, "Good evening." Says, "There is no sound, or is my YouTube malfunctioning? Is that an early thing, or am I talking to myself?" Nope. I hear. Good. Sound test work. I hate when I see that. It always scares me. Okay. If I keep reading lower, you say I refresh, and okay. Dragon says, "Hey, Ash, you're closing in on 700 subs." I know, man. Getting really close. I really stopped gaining subs for a long... I've been on like a really long plateau for feels like almost a year now. I mean, it's 2020 for sure. And I know a lot of that's my fault because when the whole COVID thing happened, I really just lost track of, you know, I've never pretended to be a YouTube star. I've never pretended that I was going to be a YouTube star. I've never had these delusions of myself, just a schmo who just likes to get on and speak into a microphone and play pretend. But I knew that once I started gaining a few subs, that I kind of knew some of the, not tricks, if you will, but some of the prerequisites. And one of the things anyone who has a YouTube channel will tell you is consistency. Whether you're going to be the next PewDiePie, which that might be harder than being an astronaut too, or whether you're going to just be some schlub like me who just gets on and does like a little hobby and talks to people online and does the old school. Well, this is what I consider like real YouTube. This is what YouTube started as, when it was just everyday people getting on and expressing themselves. Being consistent, doing videos like daily, if you can, depending on what type of content you do, you just get those subs. And then I started really falling off the wagon. I don't know if that's the right term, but whatever, it works now. I think you understand. And if you stop doing videos, which I did for a while, that's why I do these live videos, because I was like, I'm just not doing reviews. I'm not doing, because I wasn't buying comics because of the COVID, and now I am buying comics, but I just haven't got back into the swing of doing the actual comic videos. It's tough to get back in the swing. Plus, just there's the hectic stuff going on at home, like kind of inhibits doing videos. And then the heat of the summers, I have all the million excuses in the world to not do it. I'm hoping that'll change in the next couple weeks and it can get back in the ball and start doing more regular stuff. But hopefully I can get to 1,000. That's what I really want to do. If I can just hit 1,000 and break through getting some of those cool little YouTube perks that you can't get, like you can't have a community page. You can't do like text posts on YouTube until you hit 1,000, and that'd be really cool. Gigmock says Elon Musk equals Tony Stark. Yeah, I guess in some ways, like old school Tony Stark, not MCU Tony Stark, who's all full of himself and everything, but old school Tony Stark, who didn't have much of a personality. Elon Musk seems to fit that guy kind of too. He also seems to fit a little bit of Reed Richards, although he's not the big scientist guy. Man, that guy's got a crazy mind. If you ever have an opportunity to watch the Elon Musk episodes on Joe Rogan, especially one of the most recent one that he did on, because he's been on there several times. The most recent one he did, it's been several months now. Man, he starts talking. He goes into some crazy discussions. And one of the fascinating ones he went into was are we living in a simulation? Like, and how would we even know if we're living in a simulation? And they get on this crazy kick, and you can just see like how his mind doesn't think like normal people. And another thing that was fascinating in that same Joe Rogan show was Elon talking to Joe about one of his, because he's got many companies. I don't know if you guys know this. I mean, he's got Tesla, he's got SpaceX, he's got the Boring Company, and then he's got some other company, I think. And they're working on cybernetic interfaces with the human brain. And they start talking about that, and Joe's like, because Joe doesn't know much about it. I didn't know about this at all until he was talking about it. And I mean, I knew about the concepts. We've all seen sci-fi films and stuff. But they're right now working on cybernetic interfaces with the human brain. And currently, the current thing is for people with disability. It's for a medical, like to help people with maybe brain injuries or other disabilities associated with the brain. But he's talking about like that's not that's not where they foresee it being. That's where they're just going to start. But they're talking about basically going in the future. Everyone is going to be cybernetically enhanced, and how it's going to just change humanity. And I can't even begin to speak eloquently at all about the subject. I encourage you, if you're into that sort of stuff, it's a fun I like Joe Rogan a lot. Not just for being Joe Rogan. I like his format of his show. He's the kind of guy who can just he gets anyone and everyone on his show. And I'm going to be truthful. Not everything is interesting. Obviously, I pick and choose the stuff that I watch. I probably only watch less than 10% of what he does. But I try to... I either listen to the ones that sound like they're going to be interesting. And I'll tell you what, speaking of Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. was on a semi-recent this year episode. And that was really cool, too. I was like, wow, this is a side of Robert Downey Jr. I never knew. And what's the cool thing about how he does his show is it's really candid. He's not like your typical corporate media type of guy. He just sits down for like 2 to 3 hours with someone, and they just have a chill conversation about anything and everything. And he never tries to pin someone into a corner on something. He's never trying to push an agenda. He just wants to talk, and he talks to from all angles. And like I said, sometimes you're going to have someone on there. You're like, I don't give a like I said, 90% of the time I'm like, I could care less. But sometimes they have people on there that you think you wouldn't be interested in. But then you start listening and you can't stop listening. I can't remember her name. But she's a famous Scientologist. I think it's like Leah Remy or something like that. And she used to be part of Scientology. She got out of the cult. She's got a show, I think, on A&E about... Is it on A&E? On one of those cable channels that's about it. And I saw it because Joe Rogan does these clip episodes where they'll just like give you like a little 10-minute clip of one of the big... And that's really the way I discover stuff, because I don't want to sit down for 3 hours and go, am I interested in this? I don't know. So sometimes I'll just listen to those little clip ones, and they'll usually have like a headline that sounds interesting. And I've always been kind of into cults and anti-cult thing and Scientology. It's just been partial interest of mine. So I was like, Scientology? Oh, 10 minutes. What's this all about? And that 10-minute clip, I was glued. I was like, I gotta go listen to the whole thing. And so I found it in the episode, and I listened to it, and it just, I was like, I don't know who this girl, like, apparently she was like on King of Queens or something. I think she's one of those sitcoms. And I was like, I don't know who this is, but her story was fascinating. It was just gripping. Anyways, I'm enough about Joe Rogan. This episode is going to be as long as Joe Rogan show. Except I don't have an interesting guest. By the way, if you want to be a guest on the show, get in contact with me. I like having conversations with people. That's why I do this, but this feels very one way. Let's see. Gosh, you guys have been talking a lot, so I guess I'm doing something okay. Let's just see. Ronnie says, there's actually a guy who has started a real-life Stark Industries. That doesn't surprise me. Zach says, I wanted to be an astronaut, then I found out I was too tall. Yeah, a lot of them get pulled from the Air Force, and or I guess Navy possibly, but usually they're... And if you're going to be a pilot, you have to be a certain size. So I guess it fits that would probably be the same case. Tony Stark always had a dynamic personality, especially when Denny O'Neil was writing him. I don't remember him having the personality. I guess dynamic can mean a lot of things, but he was always... I don't know. It's been 40 years. I'm not going to argue this. I guess I'm speaking from my memories, and maybe my memories aren't as accurate as they possibly could be. But I'm pretty confident that the Iron Man from the 80s that I remember reading was way different than what the Iron Man that Robert Downey Jr. changed him into. Let's see. Gigmox says, I've been going back to those issues. My favorite issue 200 still holds up. Cool. Ronnie says, I'm rebuilding a run to issue 300. I have some at one end and I have some at one end and $2.99 at the other. Very cool. Why did you give up your Iron Mans? Did you sell them? Did you pull a Breen and be like, I gotta sell my comics, and then now I'm gonna rebuy them. Hope you guys have a nice, refreshing beverage. Tonight I am drinking half Coke, half Dr. Pepper. I think we talked about this in the past. It's one of my favorite things to get. Remember, it only works out of the fountain. For whatever reason, if you take bottled Coke and bottled Dr. Pepper and you do half, it doesn't, I mean, you can mix them, but it doesn't have that, it doesn't come out the same. But when you go to, let's say, a convenience store like 7-Eleven or something and pour yourself a drink, half and half, it's something I've been doing since high school, and it's just one of my favorite drinks. That's what I'm drinking. Hopefully you guys have a delicious, refreshing beverage. Tehillim says, so being matrixed, also called transhumanism. Yeah. I guess transhumanism, I think, is a little different. But I guess what they were talking about, going back to Elon, wasn't so much like we were in the Matrix, like we're humans and we're trapped by machines, but more of the concept of, are we even human? Like, is our reality, like, we just think that we're human because that's the simulation programs our conscious, like our consciousness just perceives reality this way. But in actuality, we're just a consciousness, and that the reality is what the simulation shapes. And that being the case, I mean, again, he goes way better into it than I do. But, you know, if you think about the possibilities of that could, the universe, you know, so many things could be possible in the universe, and that could explain so many things. I'm not going to, I think it's very fascinating from a science fiction point of view. I like pondering reality. Zach says, Leah Remy, she was on King of Queens, I think. Yeah, cool. I guess I got her name right. I'm terrible at names, and my memory is not what it used to. Chris Barker's in the house. Says, hello, Ash. Me and my friend are almost done with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., halfway through season 6. Hopefully the final season gets dropped on Netflix, or I'm going to be really pissed. All right. I think I stopped watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on season 3, I want to say. I don't even know if I made it that far. I know I watched the first 2 seasons, and I really, really wanted to like it. And it was not for me. Ronnie says 57 years for Iron Man this year, Ash. I don't know what that means. When you get to 700 subs, then you can comment on Tony Stark's personality, says Eric. Fine. Jeez. Get lost in various moves and such. Oh, I see. You didn't lose them. They got various... I can't read tonight. This is not boding well. They got lost in various moves and such. I did not willingly lose them, Ash. Well, my apologies. That stinks then. That's even worse, because you're like, I used to have them and they got lost. I can't even begin to tell you how much stuff I've lost in moves. And it kind of breaks my heart. I'm sipping on coffee with hot cocoa mix stirred in. Oh, that's like I've done that on occasion. That's like a ghetto mocha. You're like, I want a mocha, but I don't have the wherewithal I don't have the patience or wherewithal or whatever to do it right. Hey, look, there's a hot cocoa packet. I don't know if you were able to get it to turn. Every time I do it, I always regret it. I was like, oh, this did not come out like my brain thought it would. Rania says, that is a good tasty beverage, Zax. It's much like Swiss mocha coffee that I like too. Now that's the way to go. I do like those. Do you guys remember those International House coffees? I haven't seen those in forever. They used to come in these like little rectangular cans, and it was like an instant coffee, but they had all these like gourmet European kind of flavor coffees, and they and it was, it was pretending to be like this big sophisticated thing, and all it really was some powdered mix that you mix with hot water. You're like, oh, I'm drinking something sophisticated. Zach says ghetto mocha is exactly what I called it. Awesome. Well, I'm glad I wasn't offensive then, because I was like, should I say ghetto mocha? And then someone gets pissed. What? How dare you call my drink ghetto mocha? Cool. High five. We're on the same page. Between auctions and my husband raiding dollar bins, I'm slowly building the run. Cool, cool. Fortunately, I guess, especially I guess in your position, that Iron Man run's not expensive. It's not like a huge collectible run. I mean, some of the older ones will be, cost money just because they're old. But I don't believe there's a lot of like key issues or anything in there that are hard to get, hard or expensive to get. Ronnie says that's the only one I really like. The others are okay. Speaking of okay, let's go on the webs and see what kind of news there is. Today I've chosen Newsarama just to get in touch with what's going on in comic news. Sorry to drink on the air and be all unprofessional, but that's what I am. I'm an unprofessional. I've been dabbling a lot into real politics lately. And while I don't want to be one of these people that just shuts my mouth and never talks about it on the show, I also don't want it to be a tidal wave and drive everyone away. So I promised myself, I was like, you know what, just be 100% comics tonight. And so I was like, let's look at news on that and see what there is to talk about. So let's see. Best superhero origin stories of all time. Oh, that should be, it's not really news, but let's see what they have to say. I always find it interesting to see what these little website authors that, write these articles and see what they say. So the number 10 best superhero origin of all time is Green Arrow. And it'll be interesting. We'll see what you guys in the chat agree or disagree with their choices. Far from the only arrogant rich guy made good on the list, Green Arrow still has a unique distinction of being one of the first characters to have a truly compelling riches to rags style origin. All right. Robinson Crusoe style, they talk about it. Okay, I'm not a big Green Arrow fan, so I can't really comment whether I think he's got a great superhero origin. So this is not just DC, it looks like. Okay, so Green Arrow is number 10. Number 9, Green Lantern, the product of the superhero revival that sparked the Silver Age and birthed a new generation of characters. Green Lantern is perhaps one of the most innovative updates to an older character that took place during that time. Okay, that is kind of true. That's interesting. They already had a Green Lantern from the Golden Age, and then they redid him. Instead of just updating that character, they basically just took the name and just reinvented what a Green Lantern was. Thought that was kind of interesting. They're like, we like this concept of a character called Green Lantern with the magic ring, but this other one's just not working right. Let's just start from scratch. Let's see. The Green Lantern origin, from what I understand, is okay. I mean, alien crashes and gives him the ring. I don't know how great of an origin that is. Number 8, Iron Man. Iron Man does have a pretty cool origin, I have to say. I do kind of like the concept of him being like this rich industrialist who makes weapons and doesn't really care about the plight of the little man and what what he's doing affects the world, until he kind of gets caught up into it and gets caught, and then kind of reluctantly realizes he's got to do something about it. I thought Iron Man was one of the first complex kind of heroes, and I think that was what I liked about him. Well, what I originally liked about him was I just, as a kid, I looked at the covers with Iron Man and I was like, that's so badass. He's so cool looking. A guy in metal armor that could fly around and shoot missiles and laser beams and do all this sort of, like, it was just, plus his name's Iron Man. Like, it just, everything worked. So, and then of course, once I started reading the stories, and I he's a very complex hero, which might explain why he can't be done very well in modern times. Like, when was the last time there was good Iron Man stories? I think they've really reduced him to being very two-dimensional, and now it's just like, let's just carbon copy the MCU Iron Man and just make him snarky all the time. And it's like, there's a lot more to who he was. Fantastic Four. I don't know if this is a compelling... Really? The scientist gets his family to go into space. They come across cosmic radiation, and they got powers. Is that really a great origin? Captain America #6. Captain America's cool origin. Especially when the idea of like, a super serum type of thing isn't that, but the idea that it only worked on the wimpiest guy, I think was kind of neat for a comic book. And by today's standards, it seems like, I don't know, like because we've seen it all done before, but back then, I don't know what I'm saying. Captain Marvel, Shazam. I'm not a fan of this. I don't think the origin of Billy Batson getting chosen by a wizard is really. X-Men. Again, the origin of the X-Men. Now, individual X-Men have some pretty good origins. Wolverine is one of the ones, obviously, with the whole Weapon X that they did really well. Obviously, Magneto's got a fantastic origin. So individuals, Storm has got a pretty cool origin. But as a thing, like the origin of the X-Men was pretty lackluster. It was like this rich guy has a school and it's for gifted kids, and the X was for extraordinary powers. Like, it was really silly. It really if you ever go back and read like the original X-Men stories by Stan Lee, it really was. I'm telling you, I honestly believe that they ripped off Doom Patrol. I really do. I really feel like someone was like, DC's got this book, Doom, like, and just all they knew was that it's guy, wheelchair, people with powers, and they're like, we got to get ours out, right? Like with no thought process. I think I don't know if I would put X-Men in there. Superman. I think this is one of those ones, like, I don't know, boy from a dying planet. Superman's origin, I guess when you really develop the story, like over the decades, many different writers have added their own creativity to the story and updated his origin. So it's no longer just about, boy crash lands and the spaceship grows up to be Superman. Really develop the experience of like Ma and Pa Kent and the influence on the kid. And okay, I'll accept Superman. Well, Batman, I have to accept Batman purely on my opinion that Batman Year One, which this thumbnail is taken from, is my favorite comic of all time. So I'm going to support Batman. The origin story is one of the best because Frank Miller told one of the best stories. But the idea like, kid his parents died and he grew up and became a vigilante isn't that much of an origin, I guess. It took a real master. Now on Spider-Man, weird that you would have the boy goes in the lab and he gets bit by a radioactive spider as the number one most compelling origin story. But of course, it's one of the most long-lasting and well-known. Curious to see what you guys think. Let's go back to the chat here, if I can find where I put it, which window, and see what you guys have been commenting on. Let's see. I always lose track of where I was. Dragon Ball Talk, because then he says, "Isn't Ash Englantine's buddy?" I consider myself his buddy, I guess, in a way. I mean, I've guessed it on his channel quite a bit. we don't like hang out in person. But Englandtine's a cool guy. He lets me on there once in a while. Eric says Iron Man 55 is only $1,000 or so. Well, I was talking about what did Melania say she was trying to collect? I thought it was higher than that. Wasn't it like 100? I don't remember what she said. I lost it. Anyways, I was talking about the higher issues. If you're going back all the way to Iron Man #1, well, maybe I wasn't paying attention. So yes, obviously, like the old issues are going to be worth a lot because they're old. I think I addressed that already. Christopher says, Ash in Season 5, Talbot nearly destroyed the Earth. S.H.I.E.L.D. traveled to the future where Quake supposedly destroyed the Earth, but it turns out to be Talbot. They go back in time to prevent it. Okay. I hear you. But I just didn't like any of the characters in that show. I thought it was goofy. I didn't like how it was done. It was too Whedon-esque for me. That's kind of a problem. Like, I don't want... Look, Josh Whedon did a fantastic job with Avengers, and that's great. But he didn't make it Whedon-esque. I don't want it. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just felt too Buffy. It felt too like just the goofy, and like it's not my Shield. Like I was just like this is. Anyways, I don't want to rag on. A lot of people like it. You enjoy it. I gave up on it. I have thought about from time to time going back and binging it because people tell me it's like, oh, after season 3 it gets a lot better. So we'll see. I'm very snobby when it comes to TV shows. So Demon in a Bottle and the O'Neill Run are pretty pricey, I imagine. All right, I'm wrong. Iron Man's are some of the most expensive comics on the market. I'm sorry, you have to buy them. You should go collect X-Men. That'll probably save you a lot of money because I'm sure those are way cheaper. New Juggernaut series coming out next month might be cool. It's a Juggernaut series. It's Juggernaut. No, it's not good. Just think about this for a second. Number one, Marvel can't do an X book to save their life. What do they have? Like 14 different X books now? They all suck. And they want to do another book about a villain, Juggernaut. Yeah, what's he going to do? What's Juggernaut known for doing? He just bulldozes people. That's it. He's unstoppable force. He's got no real personality. He hates Charles. His whole thing was that he hates Charles Xavier, and the X-Men always have to try to stop him from getting revenge on his half brother. And he's an interesting kind of villain in the sense that he's like this thing that can't be stopped and whatever. Okay, it's fun. It's a fun thing for fight. But really, is there anyone that wants a Juggernaut comic, especially in the modern Marvel? Like, if you were to like tell me there was a Juggernaut book 30 years ago, I might have been like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. But sorry, I have no faith. No faith. They're just cashing in. Like, the X-Men books these days are literally, they're just milking the cows dry. They're just like, what sort of X characters can we just throw out there that people are going to buy? Who haven't we done yet? That's what it feels like to me. I'm not wasting a penny. But hopefully if you buy it, it's good. Dragon Ball Talk says the new Superman cartoon movie came out 2 days ago and it's on PS4 to download and on Cinema APK for free. Cinema APK free? I don't know what Cinema APK is, but I'm guessing that that sounds like a pirate site if it's free. Zach says most of the comic news sites are articles listed these days. They hardly have any news to report on. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That there's not a lot of news really to talk. No one cares. Eric says, while you're at it, why don't you say Superman had a dumb origin until Frank Miller write year one while you're at it? No, I didn't say that. I said a lot of good creators developed Superman, because Superman just had a real simple origin. He's this alien from space, but then they had to develop his whole story of growing up on the farm, and that made the character a lot more compelling as a person. I don't think Frank Miller added to Superman at all. But a lot of various writers over time did. But he did do Batman. He did take Batman from just being a guy who's a rich billionaire who swings around with a bat suit on. Before Frank Miller, Batman was whatever. We all know that Frank Miller's the master, Eric. You're just jealous. Let's see. That's what made Spider-Man a hero, embracing the teachings of his family. Agreed. I do think Spider-Man has one of the greatest, like, hero triggering moments. Like, I love, and Sam Raimi captured this really well in Spider-Man 1, where it's like, he's, using his powers because he's a kid, like, right? A 16-year-old kid who got Spider-Man powers. It would be foolish to think that he's just going to be like, I'm going to go be the paragon of virtue and save everyone. No, it's the 16-year-old kid's going to be like, sweet, I'm going to go use this to make some money to buy pizza and play video games. like that's how teenagers would really think. So how he behaves is very believable. And then when it's like the criminal's getting away and it's like, someone stop him. And he's just like, well, why should I be bothered to do anything? And then the criminal gets away and ultimately kills his uncle. He learns the hardest lesson of his life. And it's, to me, is one of the best. You count that as a origin, then I can see why Spider-Man is up there number one, because it's such a powerful, moving statement about how people need to, like, learn that the world doesn't revolve around you. And there's a very much growing up moment that I believe kids have to make in order to become well-rounded adults, or at least grounded adults. And I see that now as I'm getting older. I have a much clearer vision and seeing how kids, young kids don't have a clue about. They just really do think the world revolves around them, and that's not a bad thing. That's just nature, right? Like, kids are dependent on their parents. Their world is all about themselves. Everyone's taking care of them. Everything's being provided to them. And they don't have enough awareness of the world, life experiences, maturity, whatever you want to put together, to understand that the world is more than just them, right? And that's that transition. And Peter had to grow up early. He had to learn at a young age. And then you add on top of that the great line, with great power comes great responsibility, that his uncle had always told him, which at the time didn't mean anything because he's just a teenager, like, whatever. Like, he didn't have great power. So he's just like, okay, that doesn't. But then when he could have done something, it clicked in him. He was like, I have the power. I have more power than anyone. Like, I'm spy. Like, I got these powers. I could have done something, but I didn't. Yeah. Eric says Ash watches S.H.I.E.L.D. with his nose extended. No, I watched something else instead of S.H.I.E.L.D. with my nose extended. Spider-Man has a dumb origin because Frank Miller hasn't fixed it yet. That's true. Frank Miller does make everything better. Chris says, is Buffy too Whedon for you, Ash? Yes, Buffy is very much too Whedon for me. Let's see. Is that MK Comics price hike true? I have a lot of those. I don't know what you guys are talking about. MK? Mortal Kombat? Eric says, Juggernaut is Fabian Nicieza and Ron Garney, so it has a chance not to suck. Yeah, but when was the last time Fabian Nicieza wrote anything good? I mean, one of my favorite, I say this all the time. I try to get people, I might actually do it on one of these shows. My favorite Captain America story of all time is Fabian Nicieza, The Adventures of Captain America, Sentinel Liberty. That 4-issue series, he wrote it. It's phenomenal. It's my favorite thing. He has written something great. That was 30 years ago. So I don't know what he does now. Gigamox says, you skipped the first part of my thought. You nailed it. That's why his origin is the best. Yeah, that's... I wasn't thinking about that originally being like his origin. I'm thinking about but I'm like, yeah, it's more than just what gave you the power. It's what made you the hero. So let's see. I see people saying hi to Bats. I didn't see Bats. Oh, there's Bats. When are you going to read Dark Knight Returns on here? Never. That's a long read. Each one of those books is like 64 pages. I could just read one issue. And it's just chock full of dialogue and narration, which I don't mind, but I don't think it's going to make, maybe, I don't want to say never. Never say never. I don't have any plans. I am considering reading Batman Year One, however. That would be really good. It's a 4-issue book. Let's see. If got spider powers, Kyle Rittenhouse would have stopped that crook. See, Bats is baiting me with the politics stuff. Nope, talking about politics tonight. Spider-Man is also important in a comic book history because he was the first teenage superhero, not a sidekick. That is true, Marania, very much. I don't necessarily consider that as being any relevant to his origin, though. Like, whether his origin is great or not, it's something separate. Let's see. Tomorrow, New Mutants will be on Toxawap Free Cinema, APK. Oh. All right, so let's not promote piracy in here. It's not what we're all about. Unfortunately, Nicieza spends most of his time suffering from TDS. Yes, he does. And I don't have any confidence. I don't know of a single writer out there that is spurging nonstop for the past 4 years over their TDS that is actually doing any good writing anymore. So, I mean, even the best ones out there, like Kurt Busiek, what has he done? Nothing, right? Greg Rucka, what's he done? Nothing. They all just stopped being able to be writers, and their brain melted. But speaking of brains melting, let's read some comics. Dragon Ball Talk says, that's piracy? I didn't know. It's just a cell phone websites that are watch on the go. Well, so here's the thing. If people are showing you movies for free, it's piracy. Unless it's like some old movie, it's, like 30, 40 years old, and it's on a big commercial site like that has ad revenue, maybe like Epics or something. Maybe YouTube is starting to show ad stuff. Yeah, but no one is going to show a brand new movie for free. It's not pirate. That's just, think about this. Why Netflix, the biggest producer like in the world, has the most money to, well, maybe them and Amazon have the most money to spend on content. They don't got the new Superman movie, but you've got this weird random site showing it to you for free. It's because it's pirate. A lot of them happen to be like Russian sites or from other countries, and then they put their apps up. Yeah, that's how you just using common sense. I don't even know these sites, but I just know, just putting 2 and 2 together. If new movie being shown online free equal piracy, you don't get stuff for free. They want to make money. Greg Rucka wrote the transformative Lois Lane series, and it was transformative, all right. Eric says Frank Miller Pirates movies. I'm starting to think you have Frank Miller derangement syndrome, Eric, the way you read about him all the time. But I don't want to get stuck into your baiting. You're just baiting me all the time. You guys are really talkative tonight. I wasn't expecting. That's why I had 3 comics. But I'm not going to do that since we've had a nice discussion. So I'm just going to stick to the 2. The first comic for tonight is Batman: The Adventures Continue, by Burnett, Deeney, Templeton, and Copina. This is issue number 10. This is a digital first that DC does. Let us read some comics before we go to bed. And here we go. Red Sun Rising, Part 2. The heat generated by Firefly was nothing compared to the rage consuming Master Bruce. Jason had broken the rules from the start. Even though he'd helped win the fight against Firefly, his defiant attitude set the course for all that would follow. It was nearly the end of everything that night. I threw myself between them, demanding either come to an understanding or walk away from this life forever. Once cooler heads prevailed, Jason stated his case from the heart. Bruce, I'm not Dick Grayson. I can't be. I won't be. I'm Jason Todd, and I swear I'll work hard to honor the trust you've placed in me. All I ask is a chance. Thus, the second Batman and Robin team was born. They began promisingly enough, with Jason taking his cues as directed from Batman when dealing with rank-and-file criminals. However, the boy took an alarming amount of zeal in doling out punishment to more formidable adversaries. The more ruthless the enemy, the more Jason seemed determined to issue payback in kind. Things came to a head one fateful Halloween night. The Scarecrow had commandeered the airwaves to plunge Gotham into an epidemic of fear. Tonight, All Hallows' Eve is reborn as a new experiment in terror. I am anxious to know which you dread most. The inaudible signal currently paralyzing you with fright? Or the members of my loyal skeleton crew attacking and looting as they please? Crash. Answer me with your screams, Gotham. I'm listening. Trick or treat. Bam. So our silent attack plan? To minimize danger to the hostages? What happened to that part? Sorry, I couldn't pass up that sweet entrance. You just handled the tech stuff. The big guy and I will do the heavy lifting. Wow, that's some misogyny there, Jason. You and your companions should be shrieking in terror, Batman. Maybe, if we weren't wearing signal blockers. Very inventive, but of course I planned for that too. Not the old fear gas gimmick. You're getting stale, Crowy. What happened next was unexpected and inexcusable. You want to experiment with terror? I'm so there. First, let's ditch the fright mask. Force you to confront the heebie-jeebies barefaced. Enough. And since screams are your thing, stop. Surrender. Robin. Let them hear you all over town. Crack. No. You could have killed him. One less oddball. Maybe now the other creeps will realize we mean business. We would later learn that some of Gotham's most despicable creatures had received that message, loud and clear. "Well, well, looks like the Bat Brood is in serious need of family therapy. I happen to know a good shrink." Batman was tight-lipped about the incident, but I couldn't let it rest. "This can't go on, Master Bruce. There's no shame in admitting a mistake." There was no mistake. Jason is simply not ready to... Jason was exposed to Scarecrow's toxin. It sparked an extreme fight-or-flight reaction that forced him to lash out in fear. That's the only credible explanation for what happened. No, that's the only one you'll accept. Drop it. And 2 hours later, I did. I took it upon myself to analyze Master Jason's costume. Any traces of Scarecrow's toxin would have been present on it, and there were none. It's all there in my report. I know. I tested his costume an hour before you did. I'm sorry. Me too. Now I know what you really think of me. I'm gone. Jason. What? Damn. It's just... Jeez. You never trusted me, any of you. I had to be sure, for all of our sakes. Well, now you don't have to worry anymore. And you never saw him again? I did not. But Batman had a final encounter with his wayward Robin. Up until now, I considered it the bitterest tragedy of Batman's career. However, if Jason Todd has indeed returned, things could become infinitely worse. The world's greatest detective. Took you longer than I thought. But I knew you'd figure it out eventually. First place we met and all. It's no Wayne Manor, but sentimental value, you know. Jason, what happened? Where have you been? Sorry I never wrote. You gave me up for dead right after that wild night at Joker's, so I didn't think there was much of a point. I searched everywhere for you. Well, I have to admit, if there was one useful skill I learned from you, it was how to pull a vanishing act. I decided to take a few years off and figure out who I really am. After recovering from the massive blood loss and physical trauma, of course. I also worked up a new look. Red Hood. The victim's shroud turned executioner's mask. Joker gave me the slip earlier, but I'll get him soon enough. As for everyone else on my list, no reason I can't take my time. Jason, come home. I'm so sorry for what happened. I'll do anything to make it right. You once said, all I ask is a chance. That's all I'm asking now. Please. The thing about you, Bruce, is you believe so much in the people you care about that you blind yourself to the obvious. A true master detective would have picked up on my flaws from the start. Batman certainly would have. But Bruce was always quicker to look the other way, make excuses, deny what he saw happening right in front of his eyes. In complete defiance of Batman's steel-trap mind, Bruce fooled himself into believing he could reach me. And you know what, Bruce? You're still playing the fool. What else would you call a detective who doesn't question the presence of full whiskey bottles in an abandoned bar? Especially when they stink of gasoline. He's been toying with me. Bang, bang, bang. With all of us. This is his revenge. He means to taunt us, wear us down. Then, when we least expect it, go for the kill. Unless I kill him first. Next, Red Hood's Rampage. That was pretty fun. Enjoyed that. Actually, might have been one of the better ones. They've all been pretty good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let's see what chat has to say. See if Eric went to bed already. I'd rather read about Frank Miller than read Frank Miller these days. Jeez. Someone's just bitter that all their sports got canceled, I think. Zach says the art on Batman series is awesome. You like it? It's Ty Templeton. It's not my favorite, but it was pretty evocative of the animated series, so I like that. Dragon Ball Talk says the only live comic stream I can find on YouTube right now. Well, buddy, I really appreciate me being your last choice. You're like, oh, I wish I could find anything other than this. This is the only thing going. I'll suffer through it. Oh, snap. Breen's here. I better be nice. Sorry, guys, if I was rude. Oh, wait, you gotta be nice because of Breen? What? What the hell's going on? This Jason doesn't play around. How long has this been going on? Says Ryuk. Well, the stream starts at 10 p.m. Pacific, so a little about an hour. If you're talking about this comic, well, this is issue 10. I'm not sure what the context of the question is, but this is the Batman animated universe multiverse version. So this Red Hood is not the exact same one from the DC continuity. It's basically Paul Dini and Tim Burnett, the guys who did the animated series. It's like their version. They never got to put this character in the animated series. So this comic book, The Adventures Continue, is the sequel, I guess. It's a continuation of that universe. And so we're getting to see how those characters would have appeared. Let's see. Ryuk says, I didn't like the Red Hood outfit. Oh, I like it. So I'll have it. And look, you can get these less than $1, by the way. Of course, you don't get the physical copy. If you do get the physical copies, it's actually 2 issues in one. So these chapters are divided. So it's actually not issue 10. That was chapter 10. So that would appear in issue 5 on the shelf if you're buying the physical books on the shelf. So that's actually still a pretty good deal because I believe, I want to say these are $1.99. No. I think they are $3.99 like normal. So you are still getting, you're paying just under $2 for what you would get physically. So it is still half price. All right. Man, the chat really dies down when I start reading the books. Yum, yum, yum. It is late, though, so people are probably going to sleep. Hopefully you're tucked yourself in. Get ready for sleep. Ryuk says, I thought this series was digital only. Sweet, I can try getting them physically. They're not physical only. They are digital first, is technically what they are. This is the... so if I pull this up for you on the screen so you can see what the issues looked like. So here's what the cover of the first one. This first issue came out a couple months back. It shouldn't be too hard to get at your comic book store. But see how it's like a double, like the covers are duplicate? That's because every 2 chapters is 1 issue. So the second issue has a cool Sean Gordon Murphy cover, with Deathstroke. That was fun. But I'm not sure why these other comics, like later, aren't duplicating. Maybe they stopped doing the double. I don't know how they're doing the covers anymore. They were following that pattern, and then whatever. You'll figure it out. You're a smart person. I don't know. Ronnie says, no, I'm awake and fine and officially older. Is your birthday, or are you just a day older? I think you're just a day older. The series was digital. Okay. So the second comic book for the night is Die. I know a lot of you will probably miss the first issue because we didn't have many people on Tuesday. I don't know what was going on. Probably Republicans having a convention or something. Oh, the 28th is my birthday. She said, "Oh, happy birthday, Marania. Let me be one of the first to say so." Everyone welcome Marania happy birthday. I did not know. I apologize. Had I known, I would have planned a special Iron Man episode for you. Dun, dun, dun. By the way, Marania, if you have any, I open this up normally to recommendations for anyone. If you want me to read something, I'm happy to do so. There has to be a couple caveats. Number one, I have to be able to get the book without necessarily buying it. If I could be talked into buying a book if it's cheap, like I buy these digital first. But I can't afford to just keep, buying digital books for that purpose. If they're Comixology Unlimited, which I have the membership to, I can read them, or if they're already in my library. So if you want me to read something, go through the Unlimited catalog and search and see if whatever it is you're looking for, if it's there, and then shoot me a line and say, hey, consider reading this, and I'll definitely give it a shot. Ronnie, if there's any Iron Man stories, I think you did mention Demon in a Bottle once, but I'm not sure if that's on Unlimited. Dragon Ball Talk says, buy her Iron Man stuff. I will let you guys interact with that however you want. What else? There was more stuff on Newsarama that I forgot to mention or look into. Let's see. Immortal She-Hulk gives Jennifer Walters a new understanding of being a Hulk. No, she's not a Hulk. She's She-Hulk. With Michael Keaton back as Batman, now is the time for a Batman 89 comic book from DC. No, it's not. It's not. No one. Chris Bacalo returns to Amazing Spider-Man for $8.50. Didn't they just cancel Spider-Man at $8.01? So they had $800 so that they could have that $8 big special issue, and then it was $8.01, and then they canceled it and rebooted it to number 1 so they could have another $8 big special issue. And now it's been, what is this actually, is issue 48? And now they're going to, it's actually the 850th issue. We're going to switch the numbering again. This is Marvel. They just rip you off, man. First non-DC Marvel work with Ron Garney in decades will be drawing Keanu Reeves' comic book Berserker. I don't know why they're spelling it that way. Hopefully the comic book explain it. I've heard about this book. Sounds cool. I like Keanu Reeves. I don't know what his talent in writing is. I know he's made some movies that I think he's directed a film. Didn't he direct Master of Tai Chi? I think it was what it was called. Something like that. We were just talking about Ron Garney too. Interesting. News. Spider-Man and Wolverine do their best to fill in as Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four 23 preview. So, why? Wait a second. First of all, Spider-Man and Wolverine have filled in for the Fantastic Four. So this wouldn't be something they hadn't done before. The classic Fantastic Four, Reed Richards, blah, 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 may currently be embroiled in Marvel's Empire crossover event. But in September 2's Fantastic Four number 23 from writer Dan Slott and artist Paco Medina, 4 other heroes are dealing with their own cosmic crisis. In this preview of Medina's interior art, get a look at Spider-Man, Wolverine, Franklin Richards, and his sister Valeria Richards as they fill in for the Fantastic Four for a side story that ties into the overall events of Empire. Wait a second. So stupid. So, wait a second. So, the Fantastic Four are off in an adventure for the Empire event. So, they're not able to be in their own book. So, they're going to have guest characters fill in for the Fantastic Four in their own book so they can be part, and they're going to be part of the Empire event. only Marvel can be so retarded. The ultimate Omni Wave projector built by Valeria Richards powered Franklin. No, who cares? This is stupid. And why is Wolverine helping the fan? Didn't they just become enemies of the Fantastic Four? Nothing matters over there. Who is Desaad in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and what are his powers? I don't know. I don't care. Marvel Fortnite invasion spreads to the comic books as well. Oh, super exciting. That's just what I wanted. That's just like, I really wish the comics had more Fortnite in it. 13 planned very fucking cheap. Hot on the heels of the news that Marvel heroes will be featured in the newest chapter of Fortnite, the comics publisher has announced the world of Fortnite will be bleeding over to various comic book variant covers this September and October. 13 planned variant covers are barfed out. Oh, jeez. Oh, Joe Quesada himself is going to do a variant cover. Yeah. Lame. Superman wouldn't kill Deadshot, would he? Someone will in Suicide Squad number 9. Okay. Like, anyone didn't see this coming. Ever since they released female Deadshot, you just knew male Deadshot was not long for this world. Best DC villains of all time. I would go into that, but that would take a long time. Maybe we'll get to that on another episode. Let's get back to some comic books. As soon as I check on the chat, what's going on? Moranya says, legacy numbers, Ash. Well, yeah, legacy numbers. The whole purpose of legacy numbers was because they screwed up and they rebooted the comics and everyone got pissed off. And they're like, no, we'll give you the legacy numbers. But that's not the issue number anymore. That's like the legacy number. So what they're basically doing is they're rebooting the numbering so they can get the number 1. And then when the legacy number gets to some sort of milestone, basically like every 50 issues, then they go back to that numbering. And then, so they'll go back to 850 and be like, oh, it's 850. And then it'll be like 851, 52, somewhere along the lines. And then they'll reboot Spider-Man again. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Ooh. And then it'll get to whatever number would have been the legacy 900. And they'll be like, oh, it's the 900. It's issue 900. Well, what's going to really start happening is then they're going to have the numbers. They're going to have like legacy within legacy. And so eventually like every issue will be a milestone because it'll be like, oh, the previous reboot, this is actually the 50th issue. It's like, I don't know. They're just ripping you off. Marvel is where the suck goes after it's been sucking all day. Let's see. Empire sucks in my opinions, and I'm a big fan of saying that. Okay. I was reading Empire strictly for the channel to do reviews, and I read the first 3 issues. And I did a video on issue 1 and 2, and my plan was to do all 6 of the core Empire issues to just document how the series went and everything. And I just, honestly, I read through that 3rd issue and I just couldn't even do a video on it. I was just like, it's not, if it was really, really just really terrible, then you could make fun of it and mock it. The problem with Empire is not that it's terrible. It's just extremely, extremely mediocre. It's just boring. It's just these creators just regurgitating stuff that they've seen in movies and stuff. Just here you go, just barfing out a story. It's not like Unstoppable Wasp or Iceman or America or any of these books that are just like so crazy bad that you're just like, oh man, I can make fun of these. But let's see. Who's Valeria? When did she show up to ruin Fantastic Four? Valeria is one of the Richards kids. She's Franklin Richards' younger sister. And she's, of course, for as powerful as Franklin Richards is with raw power, Valeria is intelligent. Valeria is like smarter than Reed Richards. She's ridiculously intelligent. She outsmarts Doctor Doom. She's really stupid, just like Franklin Richards. It was creators at Marvel that don't know when to stop. Like when they made Franklin Richards, it was all cute. Like, okay, he's a little baby and he's got control of the universe. Well, back in the 80s, that made sense because comics didn't really age, right? Marvel had a handle on what they were doing. And so Franklin Richards would ostensibly stay a baby forever. And we'd have this whole thing where it's like, oh, Reed Richards had to make this invention that suppressed Franklin's powers because he would have a dream and he'd warp the universe or something, whatever. And I remember back then thinking, this is stupid because what happens when this character ages up? And, oh, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And, like I said, back in the 80s, it really didn't until they fired Jim Shooter. And then they put people like Bob Harris in charge. And that's the start of the exploitation phase of Marvel. And even back then, they weren't nearly as bad as they are now. And sure enough, sure as shit, they didn't just let him age up. They pulled the Jonathan Kent thing where they forced his age. It's like, we got to make this kid a teenager. Dude can literally create multiverses. He's that powerful. He makes his own universes. This is not something that should be in comics. People say like, oh, Superman's boring because he's too powerful. Franklin Richards could blink his eye and stop Superman dead in his tracks. Like, Franklin Richards is retarded powerful, and there's nothing you can do with him. He breaks narratives. He's just a living god. Like I said, back in the day when he was just an infant and he didn't have the ability to think for himself and it presented an interesting conflict. He really wasn't a character yet. Well, enter Valeria. It's like, well, we need another Franklin or another Richards kid. So they introduce daughter Valeria. And, well, of course, she has to be smarter. She has to make Doctor Doom and Reed Richards look like simpletons. So now, of course, when you consider all the things that Reed Richards has been able to accomplish, Valeria, what's stopping her, right? So let's see. Gigamox says all my issues are number one. That's a good way of looking at it. Including, if I'm not mistaken, 2 number ones of the Bendis run. Yay! Oh, you got over your. I say I read these backwards. Monty says I lost track of how many number ones I got over my 6+ year subscription. Marani says including, if I'm not mistaken, 2 number ones of my Bendis run. Yeah. I hate reboots on comics. It's killing comics. Superman won't kill Deadshot. Just turn him into a Will Smith. I like Will Smith Deadshot. I feel like I'm the only person. I don't understand what the complaints of Will Smith Deadshot is, but I think they're gonna kill Deadshot. I make a prediction now. They're gonna kill Deadshot, and his daughter's gonna take over. Whatever, he trained his daughter to shoot, and of course, just like because it's comics, she's gonna, just like Kate Bishop is even better archer than Hawkeye. Sorry, the first Hawkeye. She's gonna be even a better shot than her dad. That's my prediction. Maybe I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, rub my nose in it. Eric says, America bad? Unsubbed. Gabby Rivera is a national treasure. Can't believe I have to remind you. Well, I mean, she's no Frank Miller. Dragon Ball's only pre-90s Fantastic Four. I like the Will Smith Deadshot. Cool. Gigamox says, no complaints. He's fine. I liked him. I really did. But again, I'm not really invested in Deadshot. And the character I see in the comics, he always feels like kind of a punk to me. Like he's just, a lot of these villains seem like, DC has this thing about their villains. And I don't know if this is just my perspective or but a lot of the DC villains seem to be like chumps. Like they're intentionally made to be like lame. Like Deadshot just, he appears in a Batman story and it's just like Batman just makes him look like an idiot, like a fool. Like just, I'm used to that in Spider-Man comics because that's kind of was the thing about Spider-Man. But it seems like DC, it's like a lot of their villains are that way. With the exception of a few like hardcore, a lot of the DC villains are just chumps. And Deadshot always kind of felt that way. And I was like, when a villain's kind of just a lame-o, they're not, I don't know, they're not compelling to me. Will Smith felt like more of a badass, not like a loser. And then I liked this whole story of him caring about his daughter and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. I own the digital copy of Suicide Squad, says Dragon Ball. Okay. Gigamox says, yes, comic Deadshot is Garbo. Speaking of Garbo, let's read tonight's main event comic. This is Die, issue number 2. I'm sorry that if you missed issue number 1, you may be a little bit lost in this. I'll just give you a quick little synopsis. If you remember the D&D Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from the 80s, where it was a bunch of teenagers who played Dungeons and Dragons and then they got sucked into the game for real, this is that same concept but taken to a more adult level. These kids were playing this game. The one kid ran the game for the main character. His name's Ash, coincidentally. And they apparently seem to use some sort of magical dice or something. And something went wrong. We don't know what that is because it all happens off camera. And then the story fast forwards 20 years. And everybody except the game master, like they went missing for years. And then I guess they went missing for like 2 years. And then they came back. Except one was missing. And then the rest of their whole lives were traumatized. The story skips ahead 20 years. Now they're all adults in their 40s. So I guess they were young adults. They were like early 20s or 20 or maybe it was his 19th birthday, if I remember. Anyways, so as predictable, they end up having to go back into the game. And that's what happens at the end of the first issue. And so that's where we're starting here, is they're in this fantasy world as the characters they created for the game. Which is kind of interesting. The main character, Ash, is a guy in the real world, but he made a female character, so he's a female in the game. It makes sense, but it's really weird from a narrative standpoint. So here it is. In 1991, 6 teenagers disappeared into a fantasy role-playing game. Only 5 returned. In 2018, 5 adults are dragged back to discover the 6th still wants them to play. And so these are the characters. Ash the Dictator, Chuck the Fool, Matt the Grief Knight, Angela is Neo, Isabel the Godbinder, and Soul is the Grandmaster. That's the one that went missing. And they each have one of the dice. The dice apparently are magical or something. I don't know. We're still learning. Let's get on. Here we go. Wait, I need a drink. Hope you guys have a drink. While our peers back on Earth were doing their A levels, we were trapped here. The world of Die taught us different lessons. Pause. This is also a British. The writer Kieran Gillen is British, and he writes the story. This takes place in England, so some of the references, like A levels, that's a British school thing. So take that in consideration, and that might help you understand what some of the things are being said. All right, return to story. I was the dictator. I learned how to tell stories. Soul has been here for nearly 30 years. Well, don't just stare. Your move, players. I can't imagine what he's learned since we left him behind. The Geas is gone now. I can tell you everything. I could make you believe whatever I want, but I think this is the truth. The Grandmaster told us how to escape. If we all wished together, we'd go home. Simple. The only thing stopping us was him, bending the rules. He'd let us go if we became his prophets, spreading the word about this place. We were never going to do that. Instead, we stormed his fortress and took him down. I made the Gia so we couldn't tell, and we started the There's No Place Like Home. We had nearly gone by the time the Grandmaster got up, his hand on Soul's shoulder. There was nothing we could have done. Seconds later, we were on a road near Nottingham, and Angela was screaming about her missing arm. It took a minute for us to realize that wasn't the only thing missing. Everyone waits for me to speak. We've been here 5 minutes, and already we're resuming our roles. Ash, the dictator, does the talking. What else is she good for? Soul, I know you're angry. Angry? I'm not angry. I'm sorry. It took me so long to bring you back. Wrong move. His smile just tells me how lost he is. This isn't a conversation. This is the sort of monologue you run in your head with lovers that you'll never speak to again. This is what happens when thoughts curdle. It took me so long to finally kill the Grandmaster. He wanted my die to connect the two worlds. We were right about the Gias, Ash. The more people who knew, the more people would be dragged here. His plans for them were monstrous. But we've won. He's dead. We can play. Fantasy is ours, now and forever. Soul, I'm 43. My impossible fantasy is being able to pay off my mortgage or have my mom stop sighing whenever kids turn up in conversation. At the wildest, it's to write the book. At the wildest. So, my fantasy was not being the kid I was then, and now I'm not. This is such a bad time. Rupert is going to keep the kids if I disappear even for a few days. They'll be missing me, and if you let us go, I'll come back and play. Just not now. It's good to see Angela try, but she's not me. And Soul's not even listening. He's a railroading NPC giving us a briefing we can't skip. Your dreams will kindle, Neo. You'll remember. I have wrought such wonderful things for you. So much. From Angria to Glasstown, all has been prepared for your coming. The Dreaming Lands, eternal Prussia. Oh, I must sustain myself. I must contain myself. You must wait. Such dungeons and delights and sorrows. Look what I've done to the realm of one. When we were first here, it was all light and joy. Now we're fading into the sepia desert of age. See? I even have a theme. You can never go home. Yes, we fucking can go home, soul. We can, if we all agree. Defeat the Grandmaster. Then we'll see. A flash of light. And he's gone. You could have used the voice, Ash. I didn't want to turn this into a war. Not yet. And yet is loaded. And we all know it. You know those movies where a serial killer locks people in a room with a trap that's about to grind them into a pate? This is that meets Narnia, right? Chuck, please stop it. Or I'll do any one of the hundreds of horrible things I could do to you. Okay, the next step is, hail, adventurers! You have returned. I come with grave tidings. She's the generic elf queen of the council from the Dreaming Lands. Not exactly an area we spent much time in. Compared to Angria, it was dumb and obvious, and we were elitist teenagers who did not want to see the elves, Master Frodo. She is also Maria Wardell of the Upper Sixth. I am unsure if any group of women more obsessively lusted after than the sixth form girls by the perfect storm of hormones that are straight and mostly straight fifth form boys. I once saw her in a local amateur dramatics production of Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. She played Helen of Troy. No, I couldn't believe it either. It wasn't a speaking role. She just stood and was herself. I was torn between how insulting it was and how I couldn't tear my eyes away. The Queen doesn't really look like her. She looks like Maria felt. Solomon is good at this. He always was. The Grandmaster threatens the realm. You are our only hope. I instantly feel 16 and virginal. It feels like panic. A waking nightmare has engulfed the Dreaming Lands. I alone remain of the council, and yeah, I get it. Bad guys need deading. Point us at them. This is my job, Chuck. I'm the diplomat. And deading? What kind of writer uses words like deading? Pfft, I've got style. We all know the deal here, Queenie. Will there be rewards beyond our wildest dreams? Turkish delight, maybe? Hey, I may pack a bit of hack and slat, I may be a bit of a hack, but even I know Turkish delight was a metaphor. Oh, Chuck, I know what reward you long for. Please, no, not already. Oh, I like that. What are you doing? Wait for it. And speaking of spitting out binary code. She's a fallen? Of course she is. As if the elf princess was ever gonna fuck me. Fallen, or as Chuck will inevitably say, the orcs. Not truly conscious as far as anyone can tell. A trap with legs. Something you can kill with no moral questions whatsoever. Hence, orcs. It's a good joke. But no one laughs at the joke that tries to murder you. Get away from them! That'd be the smart thing to do, but Chuck is the fool. Charge! Fools rush in. Chuck has simple abilities. The careless attitude is his protection. As long as he does things with the right swashbuckling devil-may-care approach, it'll likely turn out okay. At least for him. Get uphill. Try and hold them back. Wait, you don't get to treat us like bloody pawns just because we're back here. doesn't mean you're in charge. Remember what the fallen can do? We spent 2 months with fallen worms burrowing through us, trapped wandering a demon's catacomb with battery acid wires weaving through our skin. Eventually, Isabel cured us. It was a miracle. Miracles are what she does. Hey, Bear, let's skip the sweet talk. I need power. Give it to me. The Godbinder. Ah, lass, you return. Magnificent. Come to parley with the divine for... If I wanted to be polite, I'd have asked a human for a favor. You're just a god, and you owe me. Obey. As Isabel once put it, what's the difference between a demon and a god is exactly the same question as what's the difference between a terrorist and a freedom fighter. Godbinders are clerics as demonologists. It's all coming back. How to be a hero. Chuck is ahead of the curve. There's gotta be some in here somewhere. He knows all about Angela's needs. Your gold of the fair, madame? Angela is a Neo. Her artifacts are gifts from the fair. The fair are what if William Gibson designed elves? It's complicated. It's a fairy pact. Every morning, her equipment is dead. Until she pays the tithe. Neo activated, core systems powered. Then, she's the cyberpunk rogue of her 13-year-old dreams for the rest of the day. Until the morning after, when the fair gold turns to dust and she's left craving the next hit. I never got why people didn't trust rogues in D&D. All players are thieves. But Neos? It makes perfect sense. You don't trust Neos as they're addicts. Can you hack the Fallen? No, too many. Locking down as many as I can. More will be on the way. We need to end this quickly. Matt, we need the blade. I can't. I don't feel like that. And Matt. Matt is the grief knight. He turns his sadness into power. I'm the dictator. I control emotions. I'm sorry. No, don't. Don't you fucking dare. You see where this is going, right? Tears on the casket, rain on your face. I'd say I missed you, but it'd imply you were worth missing. I missed you no more than your family will be missing you now. Ash, you absolute bastard. I'll do anything to get you home to your family. Hate me later, save us now. Matt does what he does. In 30 seconds, it's over. Let's go. Angela got to the heading, and we marched into the nearest vertex, staying clear of anything that looked like trouble. It all looked like trouble. Reality and fantasy hopelessly blurred. It got us all thinking. Isabel was the first to say anything. Before we decide the next move, we need to talk. We play by the old house rules, right? We have no idea how real die is, so we have to treat it like it is real. If it's fantasy and we treat it like reality, there's no loss. If it's a reality and we treat it like fantasy, we become monsters. Is that aimed at anyone specifically? Yes, very clearly. Seriously, I'll go with whatever you guys decide. It's not as if I wanted to really. Sorry, it's not as if wanted to do really bad things anyway, says the man who stabbed his childhood crush. Of course, it's real. I got a cybernetic arm here, and when I came out, I had no arm at all. That's gotta be proof. It's only then I realize I can finally apologize to Angela. Properly. My fault. I can say it. We can talk. But not now. I agree. We play by our rules and get out of here as quickly as we can. We go to Soul's Domain in 20, with as few bullshit diversions as possible. Guys, you know the rules about getting home. We all have to want to leave. Soul doesn't want to go home. Maybe he'll agree to come after we beat him? We'll work it out. That's a lie, and we all know it. But we accept it as we don't want to think about it right now. Which way are we gonna go? The most direct route involves marching across eternal Prussia. No one says anything. Everyone knows. A Neo may make it through alone, but none of us would survive those clockwork fascists. Which leaves us with two other options. Either get ships across the seas of Gondol and into Angria, or hike across the front. So, either a route through mostly civilized lands, or else hacking through the war zone we stayed away from even when we had teenage levels of overconfidence. You'd think it would have been an easy choice, especially as everyone we were close to would be in Angria. Lady Ash, I am here to fulfill my duty unto thee. The past walks up and says hello. I barely remember him. Sir Lane? I think. We are honored. He was an Angrian knight of kisses, joy into power. He was an adventurer. He was an adventure. As he rode off, he said he would not rest until he had gazed upon my perfection once more. He dared me to use my power to make his words binding. I laughed and did so. The oath holds. There has been no rest. I died 3 years after we met. 3 years after that, my eyes rotted. Even though you are before me, I still cannot see you. My oath will never be fulfilled. Angela lashes out, but it's not that sort of game. Isabel remembers how to play. Hey, the mourner, give him back his sight. I'll just owe you. Oh, why? Sight always fails, like all things, but a favor from one so illustrious I cannot resist. Magical eyes meet mine. I see you. I am free. Curse your name, Alabaster Princess. Curse your name, Ash. You will be dead soon enough. You will rot like me. The only sin will be if your corpse does not burn. 25 years of putrid flesh slows onto me. Then he's gone. No one says anything. We make our decision. We will go through the war zone, not Angria. Anywhere but Angria. We can survive anything but our past. And that was Die issue number 2. It's an interesting book. I've been expecting a lot from this because when it came out, people were freaking out about how good they thought this book was. So it's not quite living up to my expectations. I don't feel like this is a bad book at all. I do enjoy the art. I did kind of know what it was, so I'm not really disappointed by the concept. I just think Kieron Gillen is not as good as a lot of people make him out to be. But let's see. Eric headed out. Usually bails early. I'd say goodnight, but he's already gone. Let's see. What else did I miss? Gigamox says, I was gonna joke about die being dice, and it's no joke. Wow. Let's see. About to green tea myself. Okay, I'm like number 4. Hit. I don't know. Rolling a blunt. Okay. Marani says, you're our only hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Dragon Ball. I subbed this content. It's enjoyable late at night. Oh, I appreciate that, Dragon Ball. That's a nice thing to say. I'm playing Soul Calibur 6 and watching this on my giant phone screen. In your giant phone screen. Dragon Ball says, I like Magic the Gathering. This is next best, I guess. Well, certainly it has a similar themes, right? Like if you like the imagination of the different worlds of Magic, this world could easily be a Magic world, right? I don't, obviously it's an original creation by the author, but it definitely feels like this could be a Magic the Gathering world. Ronnie says the art is painterly and different. Yes, I agree. I think that's actually very fitting for the genre, being a fantasy. I'm not usually big on fantasy books, which is weird because when it comes to novels and movies, I'm huge fantasy. In fact, I just started a new fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings, and as a monster book. It's really intimidating. But Brandon Sanderson has become one of my favorite authors, and I've read 2 series by him right now. I read the Mistborn trilogy, which is phenomenal, and then I read the Reckoners trilogy, which is also really good. It has a special place in my heart. That was the first trilogy I read. I really loved it. I wish they would make a movie out of it. A little bit less sophisticated of a story than Mistborn was, but both of them are phenomenal. But just one of the books of this series equals like the entire trilogy of either of the previous ones. So it's going to be a hefty thing, but it started off really good. I'm on chapter 3, and it's really fascinating. Anyways, but I normally don't like fantasy comics for whatever reason. But like I said, this was getting all sorts of rave reviews. People were jumping out of their shorts when this was coming out. And I was like, all right, I got to try it out. But I think people like Gillen more than I do. Because he has another series, Once in Future, which I'm a huge Arthurian mythos fan. And so I was like, ooh, I'm all over this. And it didn't hold me either. So, but I'm enjoying it. It's not that it's bad. It's not that I feel that this is bad anyway. It's more of when I consider paying $3.99 an issue, comics for me need to be really good. This is completely for $1 an issue. I'm enjoying this. which is what I paid for I wouldn't pay $3.99 an issue for these. Hopefully you're enjoying them. I'm having fun reading them. I do like the dialogue for these books in some parts because it is different. It feels these guys they kind of believe, like, because I was a role player for many years, and my personal friends, we all role played together and stuff, and some of these things that happen in this and the different personalities, you can tell that the author, it feels to me like he really is a role player too, like how some of this psychotic I want to say like psychotic me, the underpinnings of people's personalities come forth in a role-playing game in ways that they don't in reality. I think a lot of us are inhibited, and society teaches us that we have to behave in certain ways and and then all of a sudden you get in a role-playing game and it's just a fantasy world where you can just kind of do whatever. You're not applied to the real world rules, and you see people doing crazy shit, like the one guy who like kills the girl he had a crush on, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? I've been in games like that where people are just like, I murder him. You're like, what do you mean you murder him? Yeah, it's weird. It's an interesting psychological experiment. I bet psychiatrists would find it interesting to observe people role playing, but I digress. I don't know why I'm talking about that nonsense. Like I said, hopefully you're enjoying this. I'm going to be reading 5 issues of Die in total because that's the first arc that I have. So this was issue 2. I got 3 more. So Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I'll be reading this. You can pick up this first issue of Die. If you missed it, by the way, I should have said this in the beginning. The first issue is completely free on Comixology. So if you want to read it yourself, or if you liked it, or and you just want to have your own copy, just looking at the art, whatever, pick it up. It's free. And then, like I said, you can get this whole series for less than the price of a single issue comic, because the next 4 issues are less than $1 a piece. So there you go. Here it is. All 5 issues right there on the screen. Let's see. Where are we on the chat? What you don't like about the book, says Ryuk. I think when I say I don't like, I want to clarify the term don't like is, it's a term I've never really liked, because it's impossible to say that you don't like something, like if by saying the putting the words don't and like together means, hey, I don't like it, which only means that you're not positive about it. But saying I don't like often is mean negative. It's meaning synonymous with dislike. And I don't dislike this book. It's just that I'm not loving it, like I don't even know how to like describe the difference. Hopefully it's making sense to you. Saying that I'm not liking it is not the same as disliking it. So what don't I love about it? I don't really think the characters are likable, is one of the things that's kind of a barrier for me. None of these characters, they all kind of are assholes. And in the first book, you get to see their younger forms when they come together. And it just feels, number one, it feels kind of forced. I think I made a comment on the first issue how it was like, oh, look, it's perfectly diverse. You got the black guy, the Asian guy, the 2 girls. I was like, look, I was in the 90s. I'm a childhood. I was, like I said, I'm like 2 years apart from these people. And I played role-playing games for, I'm 20 years solid of my life. I was big into role-playing games and groups. Like I said, for those of you who weren't, I started the role-playing club in my high school. This is just not true to form in any way, shape, or form. Like, it feels like very modern trope of like, oh, we got to have the perfect diverse crowd of people. And then it's like, I don't buy that any of these people are friends. That's another thing I hate about modern storytelling when they do this whole forced diversity grouping of characters. I don't, they don't buy that they're friends. These people, look, could a group of friends contain a black person, an Asian person, a white person? Like, sure, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you add on top of that, their diverse personalities, you've got like one who's like the total dipshit sports doofus, like the athletic doofus guy. You've got the main characters like a metalhead, right? Then you've got the girl Angela, who doesn't even like interested in games, but she just wanted to show up, and she's interested in all things cyberpunk. And then you've got the Asian girl. She's just like the total stereotype snooty bitch. And you're like, why would she be hanging out with these people? Like, I don't see teenagers doing that. Teenagers era, that was very cliquish. People hung out with like people, all gamer geeks. They didn't all look the same, but they all behaved within a certain degree of personalities. Like, you could look at a group of gamer geeks and be like, yep, I can see that. Just go to a Comic-Con. And you'll see, like, of course you're going to see all types of people there, but you're going to see, that certain crowd. And anyways, I'm digressing. I don't think I'm explaining myself very correctly, but that takes me out of the story when I see that sort of stuff. And like I said, the biggest part of the issue, that's just more of a pet peeve. The biggest thing that's really roadblock for me is these characters. I'm struggling to be like, care about any of them. Right now, I'm only interested to see where the story is going. So hopefully that'll change. It's only 2 issues of a comic book. Let's see. Marani says, Karen Gillan is the one who changed Iron Man in 2013. Change it for the good or change it for the bad? Dragon Ball says, it's very unique in my opinion. It's kind of unique, but like I said, it also feels exactly like that D&D cartoon that I grew up in the 80s. Like, and obviously he's writing a story of 1991. I feel like Karen Gillan is probably my age or roughly same generation. So I'm guessing he saw that Dungeons and Dragons cartoon too. So it doesn't feel kind of as unique to me as like I've kind of just a more adult version of that concept. But I don't necessarily fault that either. I'm not a kind of a person who's like, oh, you have to always. I like this better. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. Sanderson plays Magic the Gathering, and he was on Command Zone Game Night. Search it up. I'm aware of that, actually. Ryuk says, and there we have Ash's penny-saving comic advice. Hopefully, I mean, if you guys are liking it different than me, please say so. My opinion is my own. Like, I don't think anyone else should not. Again, I'm not disliking this at all. I am curious to see where this story is going. I'm just being very critical because I'm talking about the book. It'd be kind of, I don't want to be milquetoast and just be like, it's fine. What's the point of talking about the book when you're going to talk about it? Be hyper. I don't know. That's my opinion. When I listen to people who talk about comics, if I go to other YouTube channels and things like that, I want someone to be hypercritical of it. I want to get down to the nitty gritty and point out every little thing that bothers them or that they really liked. I do really like the art. I do like the imagination of it all. So, and like I said, I do kind of like some of the way the writing is going. It's a little different. Let's see. You would read it. Ronnie says you would read it again, but you wouldn't recommend it like you would say Frank Miller. Well, I gave this a 3 stars. So for me, 3 stars is a comic is doing what it should do. It's appealing. It's positive, but it's not excelling. Now that's for me. And it's also just 2 issues in. I feel like there's a much bigger story going on here. We've only tip of the iceberg. I'm enjoying it. I just need what really is going to be the big key for me to continue past, like, say, issue 5 is, do I care about these characters? I'm a huge character-driven person. If you can't make me love at least one of the characters, or just even give a shit about them, then what's the point of reading? Dragon Ball says the black guy acted cowardly. Yeah. I think that's kind of the point, is these characters are all middle-aged now, and they kind of make that comment of like, they have normal response. They have a mortgage. They got kids. They're just normal Joes. They're not. These people aren't heroes. When they started us off, they were like, 19 years old. They're like, oh yeah, teenagers. Like, yeah, this is fun. We're gaming. Now their worldview is different, and I do find that very interesting. I do find now it's like, because I'm that way. I mean, I'm mid-40s, so I don't see. I would be very different in a role-playing game myself as I was when I was 19. So I'm relating to it in that fashion, and it works well for me on that. Ryuk says, all right, night, folks. Got to wake up early. Good night, Ryuk, if you're still here to hear me. Thank you for coming. It was good seeing you. D&D cartoon was less violent than this. Oh, yes, of course. It was meant for kids. Like I said, this is that cartoon, but for adults. The D&D cartoon also had to pass network standard. Okay, so what I said. Cool. Well, I made it to the end of the chat. There's still a handful of people here. Everyone else has departed. It is now past the midnight hour. Marania, happy birthday again to you. I appreciate you being here on a special time for you. That actually kind of means something to me. So hopefully you have a happy birthday today whenever you wake up and start your day. And hopefully I'll see you guys again on the next episode, which will be Sunday. And hopefully you guys are reading some good comics. I myself have been catching up on some backlogs. I have a lot of comic backlogs, like I'm embarrassed to admit. But I have been catching up. I did completely catch up with Oblivion Song. Holy shit, that comic is so good. And I am catching up with Birthright that I had fallen way behind on. For those of you remember, I did the first 6 issues of Birthright. If you have never read Birthright, and you just aren't convinced to go buy the trade of Birthright, you can go back and find I did 6 issues, so there's 6 episodes. Go back, just fast forward to the Birthright. Those are some of the best things I've done on this channel so far. That is a fantastic comic. I want to sell everyone on it. I'm catching up on it, and holy shit, this is an epic saga. So that's what I'm doing right now in comics, and it's making me, it's reminding me of how good these independents are compared to what the mainstream is doing. So, we'll see how that affects me in the future. I could keep rambling on all night, so I'm going to wind it down now. Thank you again for being here.